Today we're going to be talking about 5 Amazon KDP publishing features that you probably don't know about. Stick around. Hey, I'm Dale. I'm a best-selling author as well as a self-publishing advocate that wants to show you how to publish books that sell. And if you want that too, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn the bell notifications to on and all so that way you don't miss a single one of these videos. It's going to give you a fair warning ahead of time. Actually, this video is sponsored by KDP. I'm going to tell you about them a little bit later on, but if you want to skip to the chase, you can always just go over to dalelinks.com/KDP. That's KOTOBEE, dalelinks.com/KDP. If you've been publishing on Amazon Kindle Direct Publishing, or if you're considering on going to Amazon KDP and are new to this business, you might feel somewhat overwhelmed by the tons and tons and tons of features. And, truth be told, if you just stick with the basics, yeah, you'll be able to get pretty far in this business. But there are actually 5 very underutilized features that I see that a lot of authors aren't very aware of inside your Amazon KDP dashboard. So let's go ahead and talk about those 5 ones. And I'm going to tell you, stick around to the end because I'm going to save the very best for last. This one, not too many people are utilizing. I can promise you that 99% of you that are watching this right now, you're not using the number 1 feature I'm going to tell later. So we're going to start it out backwards with number 5, contact us. Okay, you're probably going, Dale, what? Like, contact us? Yes, believe it or not. Inside your Kindle Direct Publishing dashboard, if you scroll all the way down to the bottom, you'll see a little link that says Contact Us. It's kind of hidden down there a little bit. I get a lot of people that will ask me questions about Kindle Direct Publishing or about KDP, and there's some ambiguity, and they're kind of always like, hey, I'm going to go ask Dale. And I have no problem with you asking me the questions. That's great. But I almost always will defer it over to KDP if it's a kind of a sketchy situation. So if somebody's like, hey, there's another book that's, the same title as mine, what should I do? Like, I typically say, reach out to KDP, find out if it's okay, and then make sure that you're tracking some of that dialogue. I always recommend never throw away any email communication from KDP when you're asking them questions. Always keep track of those things. But I'm going to say this, the contact us. There's actually so many ways you can utilize this. Everything from getting any just small questions answered, or if you want to, even more importantly, not just doing it through, say, email. They actually have phone support Monday through Friday, and I highly recommend, if you have the ability to call in, do that. Now, they don't have a direct line in. They actually will get it to where you put in your own phone number and they'll call you like right away or within 5 minutes. I almost always, if I can help it, unless it's a weekend and it's really a burning question, I will try to get onto phone support because the Contact Us feature is one of the best ones, and it's one of the greatest ways to kind of get things done. And what I would recommend is if you do something by phone, that you have them reiterate it by email. So essentially, if I ever ask a question via phone, I say, hey, could you be able to send that to me by email so that way I don't forget? And they almost always go, yeah, sure, what's your email? I'll go ahead and send it on to you, and they get it done. Number 4, browse paths. Okay, you've heard me call them browse paths, categories, and niches. They're all essentially the same thing. Browse paths kind of work just like this. When you look over inside the Amazon Kindle store or inside the bookstore, you'll see on the left-hand side of most books and such like that, the category that they're in. It'll say typically something like Amazon store, Kindle store, short reads, literature and fiction. That's just one example of what a browse path is. It is the entire niche that just goes from niche, sub-niche, sub-sub-niche, and so on and so forth. Now, these browse paths, believe it or not, aren't readily available in your dashboard. Normally what you can do is you can select upwards of 2 the browse paths inside your book's metadata right out the gate. They're actually called BISAC, and that's the industry standard for categorizing your books in the US and the UK. But Amazon doesn't use that necessarily inside their bookstore. What they're actually going to do is they take your BISAC that you select, as well as the keywords that are associated with your title and the amount of content, be it like the number of pages and such like that. And then they kind of figure out with like this machine learned AI, and it kind of says, okay, this probably goes over into this particular browse path. and it's probably this browse path as well. So it tries to make sense of what you've done with your metadata, and then you're kind of left to your own devices thereafter. Believe it or not, you can have upwards of 10 browse paths per ebook and per print book. So you're essentially given 2 right out the gate. They give you a third one kind of as a consolation prize. Sometimes it's not the best fit. What I almost always will do is I'll wait for my first sale. I'll see exactly what browse paths are showing up for my given book, and then I'll determine from there, okay, is this appropriate or is this not appropriate? At that point, I will say whichever one that's inappropriate, I'll get a hold of them through the contact us feature and say, could you please remove this browse path that's inappropriate and replace it with X, Y, and Z. Now this is up to you on the browse paths that make the most sense to your publication. You'll want to make sure though, if you're asking for browse paths that are for ebook, that they're just for ebooks. If you're asking one for print books, they're just for print books. There's other little categories like Kindle singles and Kindle short reads to a certain extent, which actually I've got some more videos about that coming here pretty soon, that are invite only. Now, there are some exceptions to the rule, and I'll talk about that in future videos when it comes to short reads, or just stay tuned to this channel and you'll find out more details about short reads. Either way though, load up your book with the most relevant browse paths, and all you have to do is find out the browse path, then go to contact us, tell them your ASIN or your ISBN number, and tell them that you want it put into this. Tell them the ones that you want to get rid of, and tell them the ones you want to keep. Now, every now and then you might lose track of your browse paths, and that will happen. The beautiful part is when you go into contact us, all you got to do is just go in there and say, hey, I lost track of all my browse paths. Can you tell me which ones are associated with this ASIN or this ISBN? And they'll tell you exactly the ones that you have. That way, if you need to tweak or put different categories in, you can do that. KENPC, also known as Kindle Edition Normalized Page Count. Now this feature, believe it or not, it's kind of automatic. There's not much that you can do with it per se, but it's that information that is going to be the most lethal for you. It's understanding your placement. Now you remember how I kind of mentioned the whole Kindle short reads before? Now Kindle short reads is invite only. Now this is one of the metrics that they kind of pay attention to actually categorize you automatically based on your BISAC and your keywords, and essentially your KENPC. Now, your KENPC is essentially the Kindle page count. Now, your manuscript, let's say you did it through Microsoft Word, or you did it through, say, KDP, it might be, say, for instance, 10 pages. But when it gets actually processed through KDP, KDP is actually going to determine your actual Kindle page count, hence why it's called Kindle Edition Normalized Page Count. It typically takes upwards of about a week or 2 before you actually get your official page count. And from that point, you can determine, okay, is this applicable to, say, a short read? And if it's not applicable to a short read, sometimes it might even be a good case that you can go and say to them, hey, could you remove it from that category and move it into this category? Knowing how to get the KENPC is the harder part. All you need to do is go into your dashboard, click promote and advertise. It's going to open that up. It seems kind of crazy. You're like, why am I going to promote and advertise? Don't worry. You don't need to pull out your credit card. You don't need to go to your bank account. All you got to do is just scroll on down and it'll say your KENPC. And before we get to that very last, number 1 point, I told you the juicy stuff I was going to save for last. I thought it was very important that I would go ahead and show you a little bit more about KDP. In about less than a minute, I'm going to show you exactly how you can see about formatting your ebook. First of all, head over to daylinks.com/KDP. That's KOTOBEE. When you head on over there, you're going to download it for Windows, and it's also available for Mac, and you're going to install this. As soon as it's all done installing, we're going to open it on up. We have choices of reflowable or fixed layout. If you have questions, click the help button. I'm going to take my Microsoft Word document and I'm going to copy and paste it over into KDP. And at this point, I can start to format this however I wish. I can insert links and pictures and so on. And now we can format it in any variation that we wish to. I'm going to do it for EPUB so I can upload this to any platform I want. I hit create, save, and now if I want to, I can head over to KDP, I can head over to Apple, and all I need to do is put in my book's metadata, and then I can just upload that EPUB, or I can upload, in this instance, a MOBI if I had that formatted. And number 1, X-ray. Now, X-ray is kind of an interesting one. Think of it like Easter eggs for your book. So if you have, like, say, DVDs, which some of you still own DVDs out there, I imagine, they have Easter eggs, some things that are hidden inside the DVD if you click a certain area, or even some movies that you'll go to have hidden little Easter eggs from the director or producer, you know, and it gets like a callback to another movie or, you know, a famous person of some sort. Well, X-ray is kind of the same in the aspect that what it does is it optimizes your publication. Now, this is only available for ebook, okay? So you're not going to be able to do it for print book. And what it's going to do is, it's an automated system. All you need to do is go to your ebook, all right, inside the KDP dashboard, and it says enable X-ray. Don't worry, this doesn't cost anything. It's not going to put you in danger of any kind of problems or anything else like that. In fact, they actually encourage it. And all you need to do is click enable X-ray. You sit back and wait. Now, depending on the length of your book, it might take a little longer for KDP to put together something for you. But what it's going to do is it's going to go through your publication and figure out important names, places, anything that's going to grab a person's attention and get it to where, like, oh, they want to learn something a little bit more about this. So if you're a fiction author, here's a great time for you to showcase maybe the villain of your book, your protagonist of the book, the antagonist in the event of, you know, of the villain. You would go ahead and maybe make that something that's going to be clickable in X-ray and explain the development behind that. And your ebook readers are going to really enjoy that little extra something. In fact, this is what KDP says about X-ray. X-ray is a unique Kindle ebook feature that allows readers to learn more about a character, topic, event, place, or any other term simply by pressing and holding on the word or phrase that interests them. X-ray for Authors is a free Kindle Direct publishing tool that enables you, the author, to add your own descriptions or commentary that will show up when the reader engages the X-ray feature. With X-ray for Authors, you can add new X-ray entries, edit existing ones, or enable X-ray for a new book. X-ray is only available for ebooks published in English. All right, so know that that's just for English right now. I imagine they'll eventually roll it on out. But I kind of glossed over the fact that, you know, nonfiction, it's really kind of nice in that, for instance, if you're doing something like my friend here, Evan Carmichael, he has one with like famous people that he's interviewed and such, and inside it, they can always be able to give a little bit more of a backstory on, say, someone like a Tony Robbins or Oprah Winfrey or Gary Vaynerchuk. So X-ray is probably one of the best utilized features. And here is a small bonus. Now, if you enable X-ray, and especially if you are a nonfiction author, you actually get yourself qualified for something that's called Great on Kindle. I've talked a little bit about Great on Kindle before. I'll probably go ahead and leave a link down below. If I don't, for some reason I forget it, you can always just search up Great on Kindle Program Dale and you'll be able to see the video, and it gives you a better idea in getting yourself to where you're qualified for this program and invited into it and get rewarded for utilizing X-ray. It requires a little bit of work up front, but I promise you it's going to be something that your readers are going to truly appreciate. And while we're still talking about Amazon KDP, why don't we go ahead and address the elephant in the room, Amazon KDP Select. Is that program really still worth it? I mean, gosh, here we are, 2020. Does it make sense for you to go ahead and put your book into that program? Well, why don't we go ahead and find out? I'll see you in the next video.